This podcast contains adult content and discussions of first-time sexual experiences. Listener discretion is advised. Some stories may include themes that are sensitive or triggering for some audiences.
There is something about waiting that builds expectation. Stories, pressure, fantasy. Sometimes people wait because of faith. Sometimes because of culture. Sometimes because they simply want to. And after all that waiting, there's often a moment sitting on the other side of it all. Welcome to Sexual Encounters, the very first time. I'm MaryJane. This episode is called The Wait Was Over. First Times After Marriage. Because you waited. Because sometimes a first time isn't just about sex. It's about anticipation. The expectations you carried, the promises you made to yourself, the meaning attached to finally crossing that line. For some, it's romantic. For others, awkward, emotional, beautiful, disappointing, or nothing like they imagined at all. What happens when the moment you've built up for years finally arrives? Today we are exploring first-time sexual experiences after marriage, the emotional, cultural, and psychological layers of waiting, the expectation, the intimacy, and the reality. To help us unpack this, we're joined by Nogwanda Dlamini, a marriage and family therapist and co-host of Love and Marriage Today with Dr. Bake and Nogwanda. Through her work, she explores relationships, intimacy, communication, and the realities couples navigate behind closed doors. Welcome, Nogwanda. We're really happy to have you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So, Nogwanda, before we get into the experience of first time after marriage, I think it's important to start with the why. Because people choose to wait until marriage for different reasons: faith, culture, family, expectations, personal values, emotional readiness, and sometimes wanting intimacy to feel deeply intentional. And I imagine those reasons can shape the expectations that people carry into marriage and into their first sexual experience. So, from your perspective, what are some of the reasons people choose to wait until after marriage to have sex? And how can those reasons influence the way they later experience intimacy within their marriage?
There could be a number of reasons. And what we have experienced is that one of the majority of reason, if I can say it that way, is faith. Because of religious belief that somebody may have, then they choose to abstain and wait for marriage. Of course, lifestyle, you find that for others, it's a matter of, I have had an experience, a sexual experience, but now I want to wait because now I'm preparing myself for marriage. I'd like to wait and then have that meaningful experience within the marriage. Of course, that also goes along with the meaning that people have around marriage itself. Also, of course, it health reasons, but mostly it is that of religion, faith, as well as just the culture and the lifestyle, but then also the matter of health.
So marriage is this sacred. I mean, a lot of people, I guess, they view marriage as this sacred institution, right? So I think that people, when they talk about waiting until after marriage, there's also this assumption that the first time will automatically feel meaningful, magical, and deeply fulfilling. But from what I understand, reality can be much more complicated. So, what do people often misunderstand about choosing to wait for sex until after marriage and the emotional expectations that come from first time experiences?
All right. So, a misunderstanding that is common is that people think that when we have it for the first time, when we actually now engage for the first time, it's going to be romantic, TV style, and all of that. However, the truth is, you actually get to realize it's as real as can be. You are just yourself, a human being, and you have another human being there with you. And it can come with a lot of anxiety. It can come with a lot of doubt. Of course, you could be self critiquing. When it comes to women, there's also that challenge of the body. You're not too sure of how somebody else will view your nakedness, all of that. When you are not sure about your own body, then it can be another challenge now when you expect somebody else to view it in a certain way, of which you don't know. And, I think a lot of people who are against this idea will use that in the sense that what's the point of waiting for marriage when we need to actually get to know each other and get to understand our bodies and all of that. However, when it comes to those that have chosen to do so, having somebody that, first of all, you share values with, basically engaging with somebody sexually who you share these values with is very important, because then that can give you some kind of comfort, some kind of course, expectation that, this person, we are in this together. They understand and they know the journey that we have traveled together. And now that we are here, it's a matter of assisting each other to go through that moment, to go through that period. Yeah.
So, because the first night after marriage obviously it carries a lot of weight, what you're saying is it's important to, I suppose, communicate as well, because in order to establish whether you even share the same values, there's got to
Yes.
be some communication that's
Sometimes,
happening
yes.
beforehand. Yeah.
Definitely.
And then, of course, this will help with the anticipation, the pressure, and the
Yeah.
expectation. So,
Yeah.
how do the anticipation, the pressure, the expectation, how do these aspects shape the experience of finally having sex after marriage?
Oof, yeah, it can be it can be very daunting for somebody. I've heard of couples, I don't know the truth. Of course, when people go into a room and they close the door behind them, nobody can exactly say, you know. But I've heard of people who actually would lock themselves in the bathroom because it's like, oh my goodness, what's about to happen? And I think a lot of it also comes from places of trauma, also, depending on backgrounds. Depending on backgrounds, you find that people have experienced certain traumatic experiences or they've heard something. A lot of people talk, especially when you're growing as a young woman, as a young man. A lot of people say a lot of things about something that you've never experienced. And then now there's a lot of pressure that you experience individually, because also I think I'll speak for myself. Where we come from, talking about sex was never a thing. Of course, when you talk to your friends, it's just a lot of misinformation. But at the same time, it's like, why you want to talk about sex? So then it's a battle that you have on your own. So looking into now, the time is actually now and it's happening. There's somebody here with you. When you feel comfortable with the person that you're with, in the sense that you are assured of the love. Now, that is one of the benefits I would think waiting has, because it then allows the couple to nurture the relationship. It allows the couple to learn as much as they can about each other and formulate some kind of a friendship more than just a relationship where it's only about us being intimate and all of that. But there is more, there's a deeper sharing that we have. So that then can make it even more better, even more comfortable to be in the same place naked with a person and actually engaging sexually. Because the honest truth is that the first time is not like what a lot of people think when they have not engaged. I think, when you think of movies, when we've seen people, we've seen something, you then have those little imaginations and you're thinking, oh, everything is just going to flow so nicely and smooth. And actually, you find that no. For instance, because of the anxiety, for a woman, it could be difficult to even lubricate. And that is making it even more difficult. People are expecting that when it comes to sexual intercourse, there must be some kind of penetration, and penetration might not happen on that night. Great possibility is that it will not happen that night and even a couple of nights after that, especially when you're actually a virgin. So, all of that. It's not as clean. It's really messy. It's really messy. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think one of my other guests in a previous episode, Silva, mentioned the same thing, that sex is messy. It's definitely not the directed movie scene that we that we grew up watching, right?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah.
They need to give us, I don't know, they need to pay us because for some movies we paid.
That's true. And then we didn't get it in real life,
And
right?
then, you know.
That's true. So I
Yeah.
imagine that for some people, there's also the disappointment and the confusion. You
Yeah.
mentioned running into the bathroom and locking yourself,
Mhm.
So
Um,
how can couples navigate the gap between fantasy and reality without feeling that something is wrong?
so obviously this one starts way before the day, where you mentioned it earlier on, communication, and also not running away from the subject itself. Couples need to get used to talking about sex. And I think for couples who are actually not engaging, who are not having sex, it can be awkward, but it's very necessary. Because when they communicate about sex, then it at least gives each of them an idea of the expectations that they have on each other or from each other. And then when it gets to that day, it's a matter of we've spoken about this, we've had this conversation. And mostly, I would encourage actually that I think couples should learn to understand that this is more supposed to be fun than frustrating. And another benefit of actually waiting is that you're looking forward to being with this person for the rest of your life. So it's okay to fumble. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay for something not to happen right, the first time. You can always fix whatever. Because actually, when I got married, I actually learned that there's a rhythm. There's a rhythm that the two of you as a couple need to actually figure out. Of which, in the first night, you definitely do not have a rhythm. You're not about to have a rhythm for the next couple of times that you engage. But as you go along, that is your learning, that is you understanding each other, that is you getting to know this person deeper than you knew them. So honestly, the first time, it is best that you take it as it must be fun. Have as much fun as possible. Laugh about stuff. Laugh about it. Because also, in the long run, in the marriage, you're going to look back and you must at least have something to laugh about. I realize I'm going to get off the topic a little bit. I realize with some couples, they still struggle with the wedding day. They still have conflict over the wedding day. So for me, I always feel like try your best to make that special day as fun as possible because you will have to go back to it at some point. You will have to have that memory. Think about it. when you think about it, if there was fun, you're definitely going to have a good laugh. So why not? Yeah. So rather than being frustrated and thinking, oh, how are things going to happen? Is it going to go right? Is he going to like me? Is she going to, all of that? Forget that. Really forget that. You'll figure that out as you go along.
I like the point on the rhythm. It's like a song, right? The first time you listen to a
Yes.
song, that eventually becomes your best, your
Yep.
favorite song. The first time you
Yeah.
listen to it, you're still learning, learning
Exactly.
the beat and
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
But then, of course, we have the cultural aspect of it, right? There's a lot of
Yeah.
cultures where it's arranged marriages. And in
Yes.
some
Yeah.
cases, maybe they meet for the first time on the wedding day. They
Yeah.
never really had that opportunity to kind of talk about it. So, what would be your advice in situations like that, where it's an arranged marriage? So, you're
Yeah.
probably really going to interact more after you're
Mm.
married.
Yeah. Honestly, for me, when it comes to that, I would say don't rush things. Especially because we're talking about marriage. I think if we're talking about something else, then okay, that's something different. But we're talking about marriage. There's longevity in marriage. There's life. So honestly, there's no reason to rush to anything. And I know with cultures, different cultures, there's also that we need to be sure that the girl was a virgin. So there needs to be a sign and all of that. But also, I think it's just that at times, some of these cultures, they carry a lot of duty with them, of which it can be very frustrating for a couple, especially in a situation where maybe it's an arrangement or it's those married at first sight kind of situations. But honestly, for me, it will be don't rush, because the reason I would say don't rush, connection matters a lot, and especially for women. I know for men, it's possible, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just how they're wired. It's possible to engage sexually with somebody who they would maybe not engage with any other time. But for a woman, the connection is important. Some kind of comfort where you feel like, okay, there's a bit of care, there's a bit of, maybe we can't talk about love now, but there's, somebody thinks of me and somebody cares for me. So it's also thinking about that okay, this person I'm still gonna have to be with, and we form this relationship, so we might as well just start things slow and see where it takes us, especially if you want to really keep the marriage and have a happy and beautiful marriage. I know with some arranged marriages, it's a matter of it's out of duty, so I don't see the need to form a relationship. But if people choose to actually fall in love, get to know each other, have a relationship, then it's better to take things slowly in the beginning.
So now I want us to talk a bit about some of the myths around waiting until marriage. There's often this narrative that waiting until marriage guarantees a better or more meaningful sexual experience. And we've kind of touched on this already. But is emotional readiness always the same as sexual readiness? And you also mentioned, the differences between males and females. So, how to navigate the difference between the emotional readiness and the sexual readiness?
I would say they're not the same. There's a great possibility for one to emotionally feel ready. And also, we must understand that emotions can be influenced by a lot of factors. So, somebody can feel emotionally ready, but finding that physically, not so much, sexually, not so much. They may not be ready to be touched in certain places for whatever reason. And crazy enough, there are certain things that people discover on that night or on that first encounter where they discover that, oh, actually, I don't like being touched way, way. So you find that that happens, and then they're like, oh, no, I'm not ready, actually. No, can we stop this whole thing? It's not happening. So emotionally, the matter felt, okay, we can give it a go, that I'm ready, but find that physically and sexually, no, they're not. Most of the time, and like I mentioned earlier on, the difference in women and men, most of the time you find that men are usually sexually ready. But again, you find that for them, they're emotionally not ready because engaging sexually requires that emotion. It requires that emotional engagement as well. And you find that men are most of the time not ready. The woman is emotionally ready, but not sexually ready. So, also, all of that can play along with somebody's holistic readiness. So, it's again, it takes us back to communicate as much as you can about everything so that by the time one person feels like, okay, it seems we are in a good space, we are okay, and all of that, they know that the other one is also in agreement.
And then there's this other assumption that if two people love each other enough and have sworn to heaven to hold till death do them part, that intimacy should just fall naturally into place. What are some of the realities couples may not expect when navigating sex for the first time within a marriage?
Whew. Love is one thing, and then sex is another one. And then sex is another. Again, it goes back to the expectations that people have and all of that. It will not necessarily go right just because you love each other. That is a scary myth because you find yourself in there and you realize, um, I'm not too sure. So most of the time, the truth is a lot of people don't know what to do especially when they've never experienced sex before. Most of the time, they don't know what to do. So it doesn't make it easier just because we love each other. For some people, it could be a breaking point where they're like, oh my goodness, what have I done? I've shamed myself. I've embarrassed myself. I thought I knew what I'm supposed to do. I thought I knew how things are supposed to be. So one can easily just depends on the character. They can easily just want to hide. They can easily want to end things, like, okay, things will never work out if we were not able to go through it. So, yeah. But honestly, it doesn't even have to be like that. Like I said, when you love each other, then your number one responsibility, maybe if I can put it that way, make sure you are also friends. You are able to be embarrassed around each other. You are able to not do everything right, to make those mistakes.
So you mentioned, and this is tied to the next myth, that if it's awkward, you failed, that, it may not go well the first time. How do people approach these moments with compassion and less shame?
Well, when you love each other, then you need to also have that compassionate side, especially for the person that you love. You can't be judgmental. And especially because you know where you're coming, like the journey that you have heard. And especially if you know that your partner or both of you had taken a decision to say you're not going to engage sexually, then it's a matter of even before engaging, have that little talk to say, it might not go right, but I love you still. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with us. So I think just to ease each other, or could be an icebreaker, if you like. Yeah, but basically, we can't be judgmental at that point.
And then, of course, there's the myth that if you waited until marriage, you'll never be sexually experienced enough. And you mentioned if you love each other, there's no judgment, there's no shame, right? And it reminds me of a conversation I had once with a friend. Well, it was a group of friends, but one of them said, and this person was married, right? Of course, it's a nuanced experience, but that, there's some people that you connect with sexually and you have the best experience of your life and you never forget it. And while I love my wife very, very much, sometimes I want to go back to that person because of the sexual chemistry, even though I would have never married her, right?
Yeah.
So those fears around exclusivity, because when you choose to wait until after marriage, you're basically saying, I'm choosing to have one partner for the rest of my life, ideally, right? That's the whole notion with marriage. So then you have the fears around expectation, performance, and whether you'll be able to fully satisfy your partner without having had any other sexual experiences. So, how do those fears around exclusivity, inexperience, and performance shape people's expectations of intimacy within their marriages?
I think the first notion that we need to correct is that you get experience from moving around or from being with other people, and that is experience. Because that now then would agree with that understanding or notion that you test drive with other people, which is wrong, which is so wrong. So wrong. But honestly, what experience are you talking about? Because with you, I am here to create an experience. So, as much as I need to be experienced, I'll be experienced here. When you're married and you, of course, engage sexually, there is no limit to saying, oh no, with my wife or with my husband, this is all. Like, this is how far we go, and that's it. Guys, you have a lifetime. Why would you limit yourself? Why would you limit yourself? Because anything that you think about, anything that comes to your head, why not go ahead and try it? Why not go ahead and experience it? So, what experience are we talking about? You will be as experienced as you need to be. And when it comes to satisfying each other, it's a matter of understanding each other. Once again, it goes back to the rhythm we spoke about, where you get to now understand your person's needs. So then you then attend to the needs, because also that's another thing. You need to understand that you're not engaging sexually to satisfy yourself. You are there to satisfy the other person. So it's very important to communicate about it. It's very important to ask, to want to know, are you happy? Are you satisfied? What can I do? What do you like? What is it that excites you when I do it? Then that's what you're going to do. And that's how you're going to satisfy your partner.
It's just like a job, right? You don't do it the
Yeah,
first day and you master it. It's a
no,
learning process,
definitely.
and then you get the
Yes.
experience that you
And
need.
you have experience that you
Exactly.
need.
Indeed.
Yes. And you're well experienced.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
in today's conversations around waiting until marriage or delaying sex, there's a lot of layers, of course. Some people, we spoke about the decision being related to faith, religion, the purity culture. And then for others, of course, it's the personal values or emotional readiness, or simply just wanting something different from the hookup culture.
Yeah.
People are looking
Mhm.
for deeper connections, more intentionality.
Mhm.
And we're also seeing with the Gen Zs, a lot of them are choosing to delay sex altogether, even in a
Mhm.
world that is often hypersexualized. How do these cultural messages, both old and new, shape the expectations that people carry into first time experiences after marriage?
Like you mentioning that the Gen Zs are just personally choosing, which is a good thing because it requires that sense of responsibility. And maybe coming from the older times, it was more enforced onto us by our surroundings, the culture, the religions, and all of that. One expectation that I can maybe mention, especially that is connected to religion or connected to faith, there is this, and we just spoke about limiting yourselves when it comes to sexuality. You find that when it comes to faith, there's a certain way that somehow, especially as a woman, you're expected to behave. And most of the time, it's not even communicated. It's not even communicated. As a woman, you just know that there's certain things I can't do, because if I do them, it becomes questionable to my partner. My partner gets to wonder, okay, this one. Oh, I'm just thinking it on my own. And also with the man, when it comes to faith, also there is that somehow they are supposed to take the lead when it comes to sexual activity. But now, as we move into the modern lifestyle, you get to realize that actually Now we are also becoming inquisitive because we are asking questions that we have been asking ourselves, but now we are freely now asking them to say, but honestly, who said that? Why is it supposed to be like that? Women can take the lead at times and it's okay. So now I think also with change of lifestyle, now is opening up everybody's mind to say sex is supposed to be more of a pleasurable thing more than just structure. And with today's message when it comes to the Gen Zs, I think also realizing the pressure that it comes with, the responsibility that it comes with. Once you start engaging sexually, you must know one, you must always possibly always have a condom with you. Now, you need to make sure that you are always checking your doctor and all of that. So it comes with a lot of responsibility. So I would understand when they choose to just not engage because maybe it's an opportunity for them to concentrate on other things and actually develop themselves up until the time where they feel, okay, we are in the right position. So, yeah, a lot of that comes in play.
I like that you mentioned the aspect of how a woman should carry themselves.
Gender,
Yeah,
yeah.
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 So, for the listeners out there, me and Nogwanda come from the same country. We come from Eswatini, and it's a very patriarchal society. And especially the older generation, there is an unwritten rule about how a woman who is quote unquote marriage material should carry themselves, right? And even in the bedroom, as you mentioned, if you start doing something that's a bit a bit over the top, and you could have seen it in the movies. We watch so many movies,
Yeah.
right? Then it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, now you start getting questions, even the whole activity ends, it's like, and then.
Where did you learn this? That's so true.
Yeah.
No wonder. Thank you so much. I mean, this conversation has been very interesting, and I hope that
Yeah.
listeners can, especially couples, especially married couples, because this is specific to the institution of marriage. What would you say listeners can take away from this conversation?
For me, it's the fun part. I think for me, it helped. It really worked out for me. When I got married, I was Christian. My husband was Christian. So we definitely waited. But what was very helpful for us was that friendship part. We didn't have too many expectations. It was a thing of, yeah, we will see what happens when we get there. So if we would put that lighter load on ourselves, it will make things so much better. Even as we help our children who are growing, as we prepare them to understand what to expect as they are also anticipating their first time. So it's a way of also preparing them to say, no, actually, this thing is all supposed to be about fun. It's all supposed to be about pleasure. You must be happy at the end of the day. Happiness is not also connected to did things go right? Because what is right? I think that's another thing. What is right and what is wrong? Unless, of course, people want to now go open books, the Kima Sutras, and what, to say, I don't know. Maybe people want to do some kind of research before they do it. But honestly, it has to be fun.
Keep it fun, keep it light, and take it at your own pace, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So before we go, can you tell us a bit more about the Love and Marriage Today with Dr. Bake and Nogwanda so that the listeners can know a bit more about your podcast and any other upcoming projects that you may have?
So, with the Love and Marriage Today, currently it's on pause. But for people that have never seen it, definitely you will find it on our channel on YouTube, Love and Marriage Today with Dr. Bake and Nobanda. Also, what we are currently doing more though, and we are based in South Africa right now, we are moving around the country and we are hosting conferences which are doing super well. People are responding so well. The venues are filled up. We have different disciplines who come in to speak around the area of marriage, how how to navigate this marriage thing when it comes to legal aspects, when it comes to medical aspects, when it comes to sexual aspect, because now we also invite sexologists to come and actually really dig deep and have people ask questions, because I think especially for us, the Black nation, for the longest time, the topic of sex has been just taboo. Who talks about sex in public? So now people are actually able to ask those questions. We actually have fun, people get to connect, of which a lot of couples neglect in their own households. There's no longer connection. It's just a matter of us living and raising children. So now when we host these conferences, it's all about that reconnection. And these conferences are called the Recharge Your Marriage Conference. We just did Durban. In this coming 2 weeks, we'll be in Mpumalanga in Middleburg. So yeah, that's what we are doing mostly these days. However, we will be back on the Love and Marriage Today with Dr. Baken Nogwanda.
Thank you so much, Nogwanda. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy I was part of this. It was really interesting. The conversation was really interesting. So thank you very much once again.
Do you have a story to share about your first time after marriage because you waited? DM us on Let's Talk First, or you can email sexualencounters@gmail.com, or you can fill in a form anonymously on bit.ly/Let's Talk First. We'd love to hear your story. You're listening to Sexual Encounters, the very first time.